The new Apple TV show Severance introduces the idea of medically separating your mind into two distinct halves, but viewers can't help but wonder how far from reality this idea really is. In today's video, we'll be diving into how the show presents the idea along with the real-life scientific research about the personality splitting procedure to see whether we can really divide our conscious into two someday. First up, Apple TV's Severance explained. Severance landed on our screens earlier this year and truly spoke to the current era, presenting to us a world where shadowy and uncaring corporations seek to control human lives and subsume their entire identity within the company apparatus. The show provides social commentary on capitalism and how these big corporates scam us with the idea of a healthy work-life balance. And let's just say that these things will feel quite familiar to white-collar workers in the modern-day world. Severance has a pretty fascinating premise. The show asks the question of what would happen if we could separate our home life and work life permanently. What if a one-off medical procedure could split our psyche in two, creating a willing worker bee when we come on site and work-free self when we go home to relax, neither aware of the other? The show, directed by Aof McArdle and Ben Stiller, taps into the deep desire to have distance from the persona we play at our workplace, to not be defined by our jobs, and to make the hours at the desk skip by as fast as possible. The series creator Dan Erickson was inspired to write the pilot while working a series of office jobs in Los Angeles. He told the Seattle Times that he wished he could disassociate for the next 8 hours, while also being deeply disturbed by the thought. But how would such a medical procedure actually work? And is there any possibility of it in modern science? Let's go through this right now. Next up, is personality splitting actually possible? The UK mental health charity Mind describes dissociative identity disorder, or DID for short, as a state of the mind when different aspects of our identity may be in control of our behavior and thoughts at different times. This disorder causes the human identity to split into distinct parts, each with different patterns of thinking and relating to the world. This could possibly be in terms of age and gender, and can even give some people amnesia, where they forget what happens when the other part of their identity takes over. Pretty Hitchcockian, isn't it? Now, some people experience such dissociative amnesia in isolation, outside of the context of DID, according to the National Alliance on Mental Illness, or NAMI. These individuals may forget experiencing specific events, or more rarely, they may even forget information about their identities and life histories because of mental stress. In context to the show, we even see Petey size up after he tries to reverse the severance procedure and reintegrate both halves of his psyche. Erickson specifically said that Severance explores the idea of disassociation and the way we suppress or bury parts of ourselves within us. After all, the plot did follow a grieving man who willingly cut his life in half for respite from himself, and of course, a decent paycheck as well. However, the show repeatedly refers to a severance procedure, which involves a highly invasive surgery on the human brain itself, and this is where things get even trickier. Moving on to, what does science say about severance? A recent study at Carnegie Mellon University in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, showed the extent to which a human being could still utilize their mental faculties, even with an entire brain hemisphere missing. The researchers wanted to find out how the loss of either brain hemisphere affects our ability to recognize faces and words, especially since word recognition was generally processed in the brain's left hemisphere and face recognition in the right hemisphere. The team expected those with only the right hemisphere to perform better at facial recognition and worse at word recognition, and vice versa for those with only the left half of the brain. But they found out that subjects were equally competent at both tasks, even if they were a bit less successful than the control group. This suggested that either hemisphere was able to provide the mental resources and ability required for either task. Crucially, this was only the case for those who had a hemisphere removed in their childhood, at a time when the brain was still developing. University of Edinburgh psychology lecturer Daniel Meerman told New Scientist that a child's brain was still very much plastic, adding that if only one hemisphere's resources were available, then both behaviors would rely on that resource rather than splitting it between two hemispheres. So the findings weren't really applicable to adult office workers per se, but it's still fascinating to consider that either brain hemisphere could work in complete isolation. Let's take a look at how this connects to severance. In the context of severance, it could be that the word sever applies to not only the splitting of psyches, but also the disconnection of parts of the brain, just like cutting the extension lead between your laptop and monitor, ensuring that they could no longer communicate with each other. That said, one's home personality and work personality are not housed in distinct regions of the brain, so disentangling these connections would be extremely difficult. What's more is that the severance procedure would need to be tailored to each and every individual's brain, as they are all unique. The series also made reference to some kind of surgical microchip, which was installed in the brain and allowed Lumen Industries to remotely switch employees between their separated psyches at will. This idea seems like it's inspired by Neuralink, co-founded by none other than Elon Musk, which has spent several years working to create neurotechnological implants in the human brain. It was initially for the treatment of brain diseases, but ultimately in the service of symbiosis with artificial intelligence, as Musk told Insider. And now for some other related news. Firstly, Severance teases Season 2. It's been almost 5 months since viewers last saw everyone's favorite innies from Severance, but we're already getting a little taste of what's next to come, all thanks to Apple's recent iPhone 14 event. During the launch of the iPhone 14, the company decided to drop a brief surprise teaser for the next season of 2022's hit, involving the show's standout character, Helly, according to TechCrunch. Although the trailer was only 8 seconds long, it did give the viewers plenty to think about, factoring in all that happened at the end of the last season. In the brief teaser, Helly appeared to be standing in a subway station waiting for the next train to come in, while the Severance theme music played in the background. Then, we see some strange static interfering with her before returning to her normal image. This could very much be up for interpretation. It could mean that Helly switched back to her Audi Helena, or vice versa. It could also indicate this is an image that Lumen has projected as a safety precaution, now that Helly and the others have gotten a taste of what their lives are like outside the work environment. All in all, there are a lot of possibilities for Severance Season 2, followed by what to expect from the new season. The trailer could be a sign that Lumen's influence as a company was continuing to fade. As they revealed more of the mystery, it appeared that Lumen was not as tightly run of a ship as viewers had originally thought in Severance Season 1. Between Dylan's attack on Mr. Milchick and Helly's suicide attempt, they should have realized that innies were trying to find out more about themselves, but they incorrectly thought their safety measures were too tight for them to possibly get out. The real question, which the teaser did hint at, was what will happen now that the innies have not only gotten out of their workspace, but have also revealed world-shattering information to their Audi's family and friends that could shake so much up. Plus, their Audis were starting to take issue with how Lumen runs things. All these questions that come with Severance are what makes the show such a good real-life application of Plato's allegory. And lastly, Severance's 2022 Emmys prestige. The Apple TV production Severance surprised television viewers worldwide with the impressive amount of Emmy nominations that it received after just one season. Though the number of nominations was pretty unexpected, viewer responses to the series indicate that the accolades are well deserved. Of course, these numbers contributed to Apple's record-breaking number of nominations, which certainly spoke to their success considering how tough the competition was this year, with so many great TV shows having released impressive seasons. For Severance to have been picked so often was quite a feat, especially with genre fiction such as sci-fi and fantasy having struggled in the past to gain recognition from the prestigious awards. And that's a wrap for this video. What did you think of Apple TV's Severance personality splitting procedure explained? Let us know in the comments below. Be sure to leave a like and subscribe to our channel for more content like this. See you in the next video.